Hello, everyone. So, I'm your host for this new podcast, AI and Future of Talent. And we'll have some drama, we'll have some crisp, we'll have some myth and some reality about all the future challenges of AI in talent and upcoming world challenges. So, I have my lovely and talented co host with me, Jamie. And then I have my honorable guest, who's the National Recruitment Manager for IBM, which is Mr. Dimitri Stupak. Hey, Dimitri, how are you doing today?
Great. Thanks. Good to be here, Ken. Nice topic you've got going on. I think there's a lot to talk about, so looking forward to diving in.
So, Dimitri, in the beginning, why don't you introduce yourself? How did you start? How did you get into recruitment and where you are as of today?
Well, it's been a long journey. I've been in talent and HR space for about 15, 16 years, and when I started in recruitment a while back, I think it's like a lot of us, I just kind of fell into it. I didn't expect to be a recruiter when studying psychology at U of T. It just kind of happened, and I started in one company where I was trained on it, and I liked the space. I like working with people and helping people improve and grow their careers, and it's just kind of ballooned from there. And 8 years ago, I ended up in IBM, going on 9 years now. And of course, IBM being at the forefront of AI, there's been a lot of interesting developments internally. I got to see a lot of this hype being developed as it happens, so to speak. And at IBM we have our own Gen AI platform called Watson X. So it's kind of similar to ChatGPT, but it's for enterprise customers only. And so, I've been able to see a lot of this work happening. So this topic is very close to my heart. And again, being in TA, it's nice to see how all of this AI development actually helps us drive our careers forward and help us reach out to more folks and to get them into meaningful jobs as well.
So, Dimitri, looking at your background, you and I, we come from the traditional headhunting shops, like the traditional style, breaking the switchboard, calling the companies, finding out the talent. Where do you see this talent trend going? And let's suppose still we are like 50% of that, but now we have so many tools available, like, LinkedIn, Indeed, and all that. Back in the days, there was nothing. But now I see more and more tools coming up, especially in collaboration with AI. So where do you see this trend going 5 years down the road from now?
Well, it's hard to say 5 years, Ken, because they're talking about artificial superintelligence and artificial general intelligence. So maybe in 5 years we won't even have any jobs. And as Elon Musk says, we're going to have, all income, everybody getting paid for doing nothing, basically. But I hope we don't get there because having a job is really meaningful. But our jobs should become easier. And I'm already seeing that now. There's a lot less administrative component to a lot of things that we have to do. Like, for example, doing research. We used to go through yellow pages back in the day looking for phone numbers of
Scott's
companies.
directory, Dimitri, remember?
Yeah, right. So a lot of that can be automated. And so that will leave recruiters being able to focus on really value added type of work. So actually speaking with people, right? Speaking with hiring managers, speaking with candidates directly instead of doing all of that research, all of that manual work. I think our jobs will become higher value in that sense. And it's already happening now, right? So it's the AI tool is going to be a great help for us, but in my view, the role of the recruiter is not going away. Anyways, there still has to be that human component to us speaking one-on-one, understanding somebody's career path and so on.
Yeah.
So I see that that's where it's heading.
So, what is the biggest challenge that you think recruiters are facing these days?
So some of the challenges are actually part of this Gen AI revolution as well. We've all seen that there's tools out there that help candidates apply to thousands of jobs at the same time, right? So there's this influx of candidates low quality candidates applying to your jobs, and you kind of have to filter through them. Uh, so that's taking a lot more time for recruiters. So we have to be kind of careful how the technology is being used. And it's on the flip side, it's not really good for candidates either because their applications are of lower quality. Sometimes you see a Gen AI written resume and it reads so plain. Like you can tell right away that it's been written by a machine, and it's lowers the quality of your own work. So it's kind of like we have to be careful how we use that technology, right? But on the other side too, we also have to keep up with all the developments in Gen AI. So as recruiters, we have to understand what are the new tools that are coming out, how we can use them for our benefit, how we should be careful using them, like let's say when the bias comes in and so on. And so we have to stay up to date on new developments. Otherwise, we're going to be left behind. And the recruiters that do use Gen AI tools will replace those that don't because they're going to be more effective and more efficient at their jobs.
So do you see where do you see the balance of this human touch with AI technology? Where do you see the bridge forming?
Uh, I think there's still a lot of experimentation being done. So I think in 2023 and to some extent in 2024, there's been just a overwhelming number of tools coming out. A lot of startups, a lot of different companies creating tools just to be able to create something and to put it out to the market and be the first in this little niche or that little niche, or be the first to do this particular thing. And so there's been almost an overwhelming number of use cases, potential use cases for Gen AI. And I think a lot of people just kind of gave up and said, you know what, this is just too much to keep up with. And so we kind of have to wait for that wave of experimentation to subside and for real use cases to come up and to surface to see that, okay, what can we actually use Gen AI for that is effective, that is bias-free, that is accurate, that we can actually integrate into our day-to-day jobs. And that's where the bridge will happen, where then recruiters will start using certain specific use cases
Yes.
on a regular basis, where they know that this is effective versus just trying everything and see what works or doesn't. So I think this year we're going to see a lot more of that, a lot more specialized tools coming out for effective use cases. So we'll just have to wait and see how that shakes out.
But but in your opinion, like, nowadays everybody is talking about AI, AI, AI. So you and I, we come from the times where everybody used to be, if you go back in the time, everyone used to be a website developer. And then everybody in the world became application developer, right? And in every village of every country, there were like, you could find 10 uh, app developers. At the same time, now I'm hearing that everybody is talking about AI, and apparently everybody is becoming an AI developer. So where do you think we should, because AI is like next level thing, where do you think we should define the boundaries of ethical AI and non-ethical AI?
Which AI? Sorry.
Yeah, so ethical AI and unethical AI. So AI should have some ethics, right? Like some certain standards, certain domain. Uh, Everybody coming up with a new tool. Where do you think we will draw the line?
Well, I think that's up to the governments to really put out the legislation and say that this is how the AI tools need to be controlled. This is how they have to be governed. Some of the more forward-thinking companies have their own governance standards. So, for example, at IBM, there is a very stringent set of guidelines on how AI should be used. We call it ethical AI, definitely. So it has to be explainable. So you have to understand how the model was trained, where the data was taken from. The answers that AI provides also have to be explainable or to be able to be understood by humans so that we know how the model came to that particular conclusion so we can avoid bias. Um,
You
uh,
actually you're jumping to my next question, but Good, good. Keep going on.
Right. Yeah.
That's
So
another
a
point.
lot of like a lot
How
of
to
companies
how to
just want to
eliminate
make
the bias in AI.
a lot of companies want to make profit as quickly as possible to jump on this gold rush of AI. So until legislation catches up to it, there's going to be some bad players out there who just, who just do whatever is necessary. They steal the data to put out certain models to try and make a profit. So until there's really strict guidelines on what can or cannot be done with Gen AI, it's really up to individual companies to define their own path. But at the same time, the companies that have a very strict path, I think, will earn the trust of customers at the end of the day because people will continue to use their systems. And if you use Gen AI unethically, then eventually it will catch up to you, and then the consumers and the customers will notice, and they will not use your tools anymore. Let alone you might get in trouble with the federal authorities, right? So so it's still kind of, I think, evolving. In the EU. They have better regulations versus North America, but I think both Canada and US are working on something too. So
So, Dimitri, that being said, can you share any of your personal experience because you are already using AI, where you think that it might have improved the optimization of the process in terms of recruitment, or do you think it would have been a great catalyst for exactly what you do, and it could have been an enamoring experience for you that, yes, see, this is what this AI is doing. So I would like you to emphasize a little bit on your personal experience in terms of this.
sure, yeah. So as I said, in my company, we've been on the forefront of this wave even before the whole ChatGPT craze came around. So I remember back in 2018, we implemented what's called Watson Candidate Assistant. It's basically a chatbot to help candidates navigate our career site and help them apply to different jobs. So that's one of the biggest use cases is that automated kind of assistance. A lot of companies use it for sales assistance or customer service, and the same can be used in recruitment where candidates can chat live with an AI agent to help them find relevant job openings. They can ask questions about the interview process, what to expect. So that really helps simplify and improve the candidate experience, first of all, and helps us to get to more of job applicants finishing their applications, right? From the recruiter perspective, uh, it's really helping to automate some of the more administrative tasks of the job, such as posting the role, for example. Like in the past, you had to write a job description, you had to open a job requisition in the applicant tracking system, and then you fill out each field individually one by one. A lot of that can be automated now. So for example, you enter the job code or job profile, job name, it auto-populates a lot of those fields, including the job description. It just plops it right in there. So you can go and edit if you want. If you want to add some required or preferred technical skills, for example, you can always edit that. But a lot of that manual process is being done away with and being automated. So instead of taking, 15, 20 minutes to post a job, now it can take less than 5 minutes, right? So that's a lot of time savings. Same thing with taking candidates through the process as they apply. So from the time they apply to the job to the time when an interview happens, almost everything can be automated. So they apply, they can get an automated assessment, they take that assessment, then there's screening questions that come to them, they answer those screening questions, then the profile is sent to the hiring manager. The manager reviews the profile, and if they want to move forward in the interview, then the tool helps automate interview scheduling process. So again, a lot of those steps that used to be manual, used to take up a lot of the recruiter space, recruiter time, can now be almost fully automated. So the recruiter can focus more on value-added stuff like speaking with the business, understanding the requirements, helping them being a strategic talent advisor, like helping them define the role or help them with talent insights and figuring out where that talent is located and how to find them and what, guiding them on the interview process and all those kind of things where in the past, there was not enough time for that because you were
Oh
manually
yeah.
writing job descriptions, right? So there's definitely value add for both candidates as well as recruiters and the hiring managers on using a lot of it kind of has to do with more automation and guidance for folks to be able to focus on higher value work.
So this was all the plus side of AI and the process automation that you spoke about. But were there moments once you realized or once you thought that AI has its limitation and I need to roll up my sleeves or my team needs to roll up their sleeves and they need to jump in the process and AI is, I won't say failing, but AI is restricted.
Yes, well, you have to be really careful with the way you use AI, especially since it's not perfect yet, not by a long shot. You hear all these stories in the news about hallucinations, for example, AI just saying some nonsense to you and it thinks it's perfectly correct, and then it's completely off, right? So that comes with kind of training and awareness, learning that recruiters and the hiring managers and everybody has to do to understand that, again, you shouldn't take for granted what AI system generates for you. You have to take it with a grain of salt and use some common sense to kind of filter through the responses to make sure that they make sense. That's one. There's many other ones. Like for example, again, we talked a little bit about bias, right? Depending on which data the Gen AI platform or model is trained on, it could end up being very biased. Like, for example, let's say I feed it 1,000 resumes, majority of which went to, these are people that were hired, but it just so happens that majority of them went to like five top schools in the US, right?
Yeah.
And so the platform is going to learn that, hey, people that go to these schools are the top candidates. These are the people that we should be hiring. And so in the future, when it reads new profiles, new resumes, it will disposition or move out any candidates not from those schools, potentially ignoring things like actual skill set or experience, right? So you have to be really careful how those models are trained to avoid bias. And to constantly give the model feedback as it goes along. So again, there has to be a human oversight over the models for it to continue to evolve in the right direction.
Okay. Okay. And Dimitri, because you have around 16 to, and as far as I remember, almost 18 years of experience in the field of talent acquisition and recruitment, and there's a huge gap in training and development for recruiters. I think that is the only field where, like, no, if you were to ask college grads or college kids that they would come up with things like, I want to become an HR person, I want to become like, an engineer or maybe a doctor or a lawyer, but talent acquisition is a huge field. You know that, I know that. But you don't hear that from, fresh university grads or people who are in their schools that, hey, I want to do
Somebody
something
says I
in,
want to be a recruiter. Yeah,
yeah, I want to
I
be a
heard that.
recruiter, but
I
people
want to grow up
somehow
and be a
end up.
recruiter.
Yeah. So where do you think, how can we minimize that gap and how can we educate the younger generation more into talent acquisition and recruitment?
Well, first of all, I would question your premise on whether or not we actually need to do that because I think recruiting field is pretty saturated already. A lot of people end up in it without wanting to, and unfortunately, there's a lot of bad apples in that field too, as you know, that we've worked with. There's a lot of unethical behavior that happens in the field, unfortunately, because it's not regulated. So I
Yes.
would challenge you to say that instead of how do we educate people to go into the recruiting field, I would say how do we educate recruiters to be better recruiters instead? How
Yes.
to make sure that they're working ethically, that they put the hiring manager and candidate experience at the top of their list versus just trying to close a deal or close a requisition, right? And so that's a better question. And I'm not sure if AI would come into play here. It's just different companies having to put out specific training that everybody has to take at the company. So, like in my company, every year we have to take ethical training on how to behave, business conduct guidelines, basically. So it's a little bit of different topic from Gen AI, but I'm sure Gen AI can be incorporated into some of those courses somehow to help guide some of those decisions or suggest courses to people who may not have taken them. Like for example, in my company we have this platform called Your Learning at IBM, and it will suggest courses to you based on your job profile, based on your experience and the roles you worked with in the past. And you can actually say, like, let's say, this is where I want to end up in my career, and this is where I am now. And Gen AI will build out a path for you. Like, you should take this course, that course, and then you will end up here. So I think in that sense, Gen AI can be useful to help build out specific like training paths for people to suggest courses.
Okay. Okay. And any piece of advice for the younger generation who wants to be in talent acquisition or who wants to take the path? I know your path and my path, they were a little different and unorthodox, but you being one of the main corporate guys representing one of the top organizations in the world, is there actually a path defined for the younger generation to take and execute and maneuverize things in a way that they have their career path, like in any other field?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the first thing is that you need to have passion for working with people, right? That's all that recruiters do. And as Gen AI becomes more prevalent, like I said, a lot of the tasks will become automated and easy to do. And so the main focus of the role will really become on this person-to-person communication.
Yes.
So I think the main skill is liking to work with people and having good communication skills. That's absolutely essential. Um, and the other ones is, being empathetic, being able to understand people. So, like, let's say my psychology degree really helped me in talent acquisition field because I can understand people's motivations, I can understand what drives them, and to understand why they want to switch jobs or what motivates them to look for another position or where they should go in their career. So that kind of a advisory mindset, I think having that is really helpful. But beyond that, I would also say that you shouldn't necessarily specialize in talent acquisition field either because um, this is part of being broader HR. I think there's a lot of value in learning other aspects of HR beyond talent acquisition and broadening your horizons, like talent management, for example, right? Or even so, I dabbled in some diversity and inclusion work at IBM as well, and so having that holistic view of all of the talent management cycle from recruiting to onboarding to talent management to internal career mobility to talent retention, promotion and payroll and all that kind of stuff, and then to retirement. I think seeing all of that together really would help you not only be a better guide to your business, but also opens up a lot of career opportunities and potential career paths, right? Not only just focusing on one vertical of talent acquisition.
So what should be the first step for all the graduates out there who are having their degrees? And let's suppose some graduate has passion for people, some graduate has passion of knowing and crafting people's careers and all that. What is your piece of advice to them that how to take first step and get into talent acquisition or talent management or all the fields related to talent?
They should reach out to Ken Khan as he's gonna get them a good job somewhere.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But there's a
Okay.
lot, yeah. I mean, you can do internships, right?
Yeah.
Uh, you can find other people on LinkedIn, for example, that are doing the job that you would like to get into, and just have a quick coffee chat with them for 15 minutes and pick their brain. Like, how did they get there? What do they like about it? I think the most important thing is to do the research before you go into any field. Do the research as much as possible and really try to understand, is that the field, the space that you would be interested in staying and going into, right? Because the worst thing you can do is get into some job and spend the next 20 years hating what you do. So it's really important to really understand what you're getting into before you make that jump.
Before you make a jump or run into, yes, that's a good one. Jamie, would you have any questions for Dimitri?
I do. Thank you for asking. So, Dimitri, I'm going to switch it up a little bit and we are going to have a little fun.
Sure.
Obviously, we have all been in the recruiting space for quite some time. And given that, most of us have some pretty incredible, compelling stories. So, can you share one of your most memorable or funny stories about either a candidate experience or an experience that you've had in general?
Yeah, it's not a funny one, but a really memorable one
Okay.
that I can share is uh, so I'm from Ukraine. I was born in Kiev and I was raised there. I came to Canada when I was 14 years old. But my mom is from Moscow, from Russia. And so my dad is Ukrainian, my mom is Russian.
Oh,
So
wow.
at least in some very, you know, odd family conversations these days. But I remember when the war started, there was a lot of folks running away from Ukraine, a lot of refugees moving to Europe and to Canada and to US. And I was able to create a Ukrainian refugee hiring program at IBM
Oh, wow.
um, for Ukrainians moving to Canada. You know, they had a special visa sponsored by the federal government that they could move here and they could work here for 3 years. And so on top of that, I built out a program where we connected with Ukrainian communities, different organizations to spread the word about this program, and then we would speak with the candidates and try to get them jobs because they were coming here with almost nothing. Really, it was, they got some minor assistance for a month or two from the government, but from there, they had families to feed, they had to settle down, they had to find a home, and try to make a living somehow. So we were really lucky to be able to hire quite a number of them. And I remember one particular guy, he was in another province outside of Ontario, and he applied to a job, and he had a family with 3 kids. And we were able to interview him, and he had to move to Ontario because that's where the job was. But so we not only got him a relocation assistance, but even the hiring manager went above and beyond, and he had a couple of rental properties. He provided one of his rental houses to house this person and help them settle down in Ontario. And so, like, that made me really proud to be able to change people's lives. It kind of helps me, motivates me to continue talent acquisition because I can see the good that we can do in the world. Really change the course of people's lives completely by just, finding them the right place, the right job for them to be able to support their families and move to a better environment, far away from the war. So I would say that's probably one of the more impactful things I was able to work at here. So
Thank you
that's
for
what I
sharing
do.
that. What an incredible story. And I obviously very rewarding. And I think that that's something that, we've discussed a lot about young college students getting into the recruiting space. And I think what is so interesting is truly how rewarding it is and how motivating it is when you are helping people find a
Yeah,
career, find, that next step, that new job. And I really appreciate you sharing that story with us.
sure.
And with that, this was the first segment of our AI and talent future, guys. Stay tuned with Ken Con, Jamie, and TalentRx. We are the future of the world, not just me, not just ones who are listening and watching this program, but everyone together. Let's make this planet a better place to live. Thank you so much, Dimitri. Thank you, Jamie. And here is the end.